Definitely not how I imagined my day beginning, or ending.
Right.
I was in a meeting and my paralegal came in and said, "Your phone is lighting up, and Brian's in custody." And I said, "Oh my God, call me on my phone. I'm getting in the car. I'm driving down there."
Wow.
Um,
So, a quick follow up to the video this morning about Fulton County and what was happening. We're going to watch an interview of lawyer Ashleigh Merchant, president of Gactel, who is also representing attorney Brian Steele, Young Thug's attorney. Attorney representing an attorney. You know, it gets kind of confusing when you have to do this, but the judge held him in contempt the other day, sentenced him to 20 days to be served on the weekends. And Brian asked for the concession that he be allowed to prepare for his cases by being in a cell with Young Thug. So he talks to Young Thug a lot anyway when he's outside of court. So, you know, he figured he'd get some work done while he's in jail. Crazy, right? Yeah, let's see what Ashleigh Merchant had to say about this.
Judge Glanville held Brian Steele in contempt.
Mr. Steele, I am going to hold you still hold you in summary criminal contempt pursuant to OCGA 15-1-3, subpart 3, for your failure to comply with my earlier order today. I'm going to order that you be taken into custody, incarcerated at the Fulton County Jail for no more than 20 days for this contempt. Those 20 days consisting of every weekend for the next 10 weekends. And you'll be reporting to 901 Wright Street Northwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318 at 7 p.m. on Fridays, and you'll be released on 7 p.m. on Sundays. And it's to commence this Friday, June the 14th at 7 p.m. and not to end until Sunday, August the 18th at 2024 at 7 p.m., subject to further order of this court.
Now, after the judge said that Brian Steele was going to have to spend his weekends in jail, Steele had just one request.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm going to file a notice of appeal, but for whatever reason that doesn't take, and you don't give a bond, then I'd ask that I can be with Mr. Williams and we work on our case all weekend, for all those weekends. Otherwise, I can't prepare. I speak with Mr. Williams all the time.
That's up to you, and sir. I will, sir. If that comes to pass, you have my support. I will talk with our sheriff, and we may be able to make that work. Okay.
And this entire thing has turned Brian Steele into a hero of sorts among defense attorneys. Joining me is Ashleigh Merchant. She is Brian Steele's lawyer. She's also the president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. So Ashleigh, talk to me a little bit about how you end up at the Fulton County Courthouse last night at 7:30 at night, representing Brian Steele in this issue, this contempt matter.
Definitely not how I imagined my day beginning, or ending.
Right.
I was in a meeting and my paralegal came in and said, "Your phone is lighting up, and Brian's in custody." And I said, "Oh my God, call me on my phone. I'm getting in the car. I'm driving down there."
Wow.
And you know, I've served for many years as Gactel, as our association's contempt attorney, where we have attorneys that we dispatch if any lawyers are ever held in contempt. We call it Strike Force. So I'm a member of that.
Strike
so I'm one of the lawyers
Force.
that regularly would represent someone. But when I heard Brian was in custody, I had to go myself. And luckily, he's very loved in our community. And so many members of our team went down there and were there. And so we had a very strong showing of force, but it was definitely something I did not expect to happen.
You're a criminal defense attorney and you've done a lot of murder trials. Is this unusual? Because it sounds unusual to me that a judge would meet in chambers with a prosecution, you know, the star witness for the prosecution, the star witness's lawyer, and they'd all be there having a confab together without a member of the defense team present.
Yeah.
Is that weird? That seems like an ex parte
Very weird.
communication or something.
Right. And, you know, during my hearing, the judge is admitting that he had this ex parte communication. And it seems like that should be what everyone's focused on, not whether or not Brian is going to tell him who told him the judge had this ex parte. It just seemed like deflecting. You know, the judge was in trouble, got caught with having this ex parte hearing. And instead of admit to that and handle that, you know, when Brian brought it up, they're going to throw Brian in jail. It didn't make a lot of sense. But like you said, it's unheard of.
Yeah, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm wondering if the judge really regrets doing that. You know, a lot of times they can get away with just the threat of putting somebody in jail for contempt and not really actually having to go through with it. But, you know, Brian still stood on his square and said, "You know what, you're going to have to throw me in jail then, because I'm I'm in the right here. I believe that you shouldn't have had that meeting without me. And so far, he's been right.
These proceedings are supposed to be what we call adversary, where all the defense is there. The defendants, the defense lawyers are all supposed to be present, but instead
Right.
they chose to have this meeting without inviting any of the defense, without letting them know. And when they brought that up, the lawyer ends up in custody.
The only time I've ever heard of a
Wow.
defense attorney maybe being back in chambers meeting with a judge without the prosecution present or something like that happening is when it was like, oh, judge, we need to talk to you about funds we need allocated for an expert or something like that. If it's like a public defender case or something, that's the only time I've heard of this type of thing happening. But this just sounds hinky. So what are you doing for
Hinky.
Brian now? Because
Sounds a little
Brian,
hinky.
as of right now, is supposed to report to the jail Friday night to spend his weekend in the cell with Young Thug, getting
is
ready for
incredible.
court and doing his time for this contempt that you argued that he shouldn't be serving.
Right. I mean, there's two huge issues there. The first, what we're doing is we are appealing it. So we're filing an emergency appeal. Thank God we have an emergency process in Georgia to appeal contempt orders. We
Wow.
believe the judges of the appellate courts will grant a bond. And so hopefully Brian will not have to spend his weekend in the jail. The worst part, though, is this trial is continuing. And so imagine, we don't just work during the hours
Awkward.
in court. When we're in court, we are regularly working after hours. We're working at night. We're working on weekends. I have never tried a case where I didn't work all weekend. And Brian is a very good lawyer and he does a lot of work on his cases. So he's definitely working all weekend. You're taking a
Well, he
man
put
from
his
his
song together.
office where he has computers, Westlaw, internet, all this stuff, access to the case file. And this case file's huge, and putting him in a jail cell where he's none of that. The trial can't continue. I mean, it's just, it boggles my mind that anybody thinks that you could have the lead defense lawyer in custody the entire weekend
Right.
and this trial continue unhinged. That
Crazy.
defies logic to me.
So you're filing the emergency appeal. I mean, I would assume you expect to hear back about that within a day or so. Am I wrong about that? Or what's the process? What's the time frame?
Yes. Luckily in Georgia, when an attorney is subject to incarceration, the appellate courts respond very quickly. And what it's called is a supersedious bond. So essentially they issue a bond that kind of stays everything and says, wait, hold on, we're going to pause this. You're not going to have to go to custody. You get to go and do this appeal. And so it just
Good.
pauses that while the appeal is pending. If we're successful with the appeal, then Brian never has to go into custody. Obviously, if we lose
Good.
the appeal, he could still be forced to spend weekends in custody, but that would be down the road. That wouldn't be right now.
But then
But this is day 89? This is day 89 of the court. This is one of the longest cases in history. So 20 days, the case will definitely still be going on. He's going to miss a lot if he's not able to prepare on those weekends. You know what I mean? Just think about your family life and how things could be impacted by just being thrown in jail for contempt of court for this type of, I don't know, this small offense. Basically, for a judge that doesn't want to explain himself about why he had this meeting, this ex parte meeting. Insane.
we have the issue of this big kerfuffle. I mean, this big mess, this big confrontation between the judge who seems very angry and really dug in on his position, and Brian Steele. Now the trial continues and they have to move forward. Brian Steele moved for a mistrial. That's not happening. Can this trial continue in your view and be tried fairly given what's happened? I mean, it doesn't matter if the jury didn't see this. It's something that is impacting the course of the trial.
I can tell you as a defense lawyer, nothing will affect your advocacy more than a judge saying, if you keep arguing and doing your job, I'm going to lock you up and putting you in handcuffs. Nothing will affect you more.
Exactly.
And that's essentially what happened.
Stop you in
Brian
your
made an
tracks.
argument. He ended up in handcuffs. He ended up in the Fulton County jail in the lockup for, an hour or so before the judge let him out. Nothing
That's
will
crazy.
stop an advocate in their tracks more than going to jail, because you can't do your job. And, that fear has got to be in the back of everybody's mind in that courtroom. Every single defense lawyer, some of them, they may have kids they've got to go home to, and they can't.
Exactly, the family
you
life.
think about the things that are going on in their minds. you know, you want to be able to do everything you can for your client, but you can't do that if you're in jail.
But Ashleigh, can he go to the appellate court? Can Brian Steele maybe go to the appellate court and say, look at what happened? I mean, it's on video. That's not how appellate courts make decisions, but it could be filed as an exhibit and
Right.
file something saying this is, you know, some type of an appeal saying what is going on here, what happened is impacting this trial. Can that happen?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. And I was doing some research this morning working on this appeal, and the law is really clear. If you have an ex parte communication with a witness during trial, it is reversible error. So this error is, and what that means in the legal world is that's about as bad as it gets. That means it's reversible. That means that any conviction is.
That means mistrial. That means things are getting thrown out. That's a serious, serious mistake that just happened right there. Man. But hey, here we go. It's one of them things. It's one of them things that this judge is going to try to avoid, most likely. You got to be more careful.
Is going to be reversed because of this. So if they want to try and remedy this, they better hurry up and remedy it. And the state should really be thinking about that, because the state's duty is to preserve their conviction. So if they were to get a conviction, they have a duty to make sure that the conviction stands on appeal. And this is reversible error. So I don't understand why they're not jumping up and saying, give him these transcripts, give him what he asked
whatever
for.
he asked for.
They have a duty to preserve the record as well. Otherwise, they're just wasting the taxpayers' dollars and keeping people incarcerated while they try this case that they know is not going to stand up on appeal if there is a conviction.
So yeah, what do you think about that? That's a bombshell right there, man. Ashleigh Merchant, man, she seems to be, if it happens in Fulton County, she's going to be somewhere around it. She's going to have her hands in it. You know, of course, she's dealing with the Trump trial. And she was she was like the number one of the most featured attorneys that was there, and was the one responsible for uncovering so much of what happened with Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade that ended up resulting in Nathan Wade being taken off of the Trump election fraud case. This is not good for Fulton County. I mean, I don't know if they're seeing this as a national embarrassment, but it's starting to get there. If it wasn't there already, it's starting to get there. It's looking like kangaroo court or something down there, man. It's crazy. But let me know what you think about it in the comments. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification for all uploads. If you want to watch more, please watch one of these videos down below. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter. This is Fawcett Media.